Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has finally kicked off with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And of course, I'm a big MCU fan. I've pretty much given a positive review to every single one I've seen that I've reviewed on this channel because I've liked every single one that I've seen. I reviewed every single one in Phase 4, and I liked pretty much all of them. I thought that Shang-Chi was easily the best one of Phase 4. I thought Thor: Love and Thunder was easily the weakest one. And I thought the Spider-Man, Eternals, Black Widow, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther, I thought they were all pretty solid movies. And many of them, of course, made my top 21. All of them made the top 10 of 2021 or the top 15 of 2022. Even if Love and Thunder kind of made it there by default. But either way, Phase 5 is officially going with Ant-Man, and I know some of you are going to some of you are probably already thinking, yeah, I know the Marvels was already pushed back. It was pushed back to November, and I'm not really going to make a video on that because it's not really important, but I do think that's kind of a good thing because I don't think shoving all of them into the span of 5 months is a good idea. I think we need a little bit of space, especially since I'm assuming Loki's coming out in June or July or something, so I'm assuming they want to leave some breathing room there. And they're spreading out the projects a bit more, and yeah, I think that's a good thing, but I'm not going to make a whole video on that. But I'm here to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I was supposed to see this a few days ago also, and by the time this is posted, it'll have been about 24 hours since I've seen the movie, because I was busy today, so I didn't have time to film, and I got back from the theater at like 1 o'clock because I went to a late night screening, so yeah, I'm just doing this now. And of course, I really have high hopes for these. I always have high hopes for these Marvel movies, and this is definitely a really good movie. And I know people are going to tell me, oh, look at the Rotten Tomatoes score. I don't fucking care about the Rotten Tomatoes score. I've made that, I don't know how many times I have to make that clear. I don't give a shit. And I find it hilarious that people think Kevin Feige gives a shit about the Rotten Tomatoes scores, because I sure as hell know he doesn't. But, yeah, whatever. So this is, of course, and I like the first two Ant-Man movies, I should say that. And right off the bat, I do have to dock this movie a point for not having Luis. I do feel like I have to dock him a point. But there's so much to like about this movie. First things first, I saw this in 3D, and this is the first movie I've seen in real 3D. Like, when I was younger, me and my dad went to Bolt, and we technically saw it in 3D, but the 3D was, I don't know what the right word is, but it wasn't really 3D, because I don't think the movie was made for 3D, so it just wasn't very good. You could have taken the glasses off, and it just made a little bit of a red and blue on the screen, but it looked no different. Here, I definitely recommend seeing this motherfucker in 3D. This looked amazing, not just in the visual effects, but the cinematography, and again, just the way that 3D worked with it. And they also had the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer in 3D, so you better believe I'm going to go see that in 3D as well. So, yeah, of course the visuals look fantastic. The cinematography, the landscapes, the creature designs, everything looks great. The performances are all stellar, with the standout, of course, being Jonathan Majors as Kang and Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Michelle Pfeiffer puts in a good performance as Janet, and Evangeline Lilly, of course, does great as Hope. And Michael Douglas doesn't do a ton in this movie as Hank Pym, but he's still a fun character to have around, for the most part. I'll get to that in a second. And I do want to get into a couple of elephants in the room. The first one being MODOK. Because we've seen the design by this point. Yeah, it looks weird. But I don't understand why everybody's laughing at this. Like, hell, even the people in my theater laughed when when he actually revealed his face. And I don't get it. And those are the people I'm assuming have never read a fucking comic book in their lives. So this was literally as good. I don't see how this was probably the best it was going to get. This was probably the best he was going to look, and I was actually able to take it mostly seriously, because again, I've read comics. I don't particularly care how they handled the character, but again, I'll get into that in a second. Another elephant in the room I want to address is Cassie Lang, who in this movie is played by Kathryn Newton. And she does fine in the role, don't get me wrong. Newton's a good actress, she does okay in the role. But it begs the question, but I do have to ask, why was this role recast in the first place? why did they... Why, and not to mention the girl who played her in Avengers Endgame, she apparently wasn't told about this. She apparently found out the same time everybody else did, which is douchey as hell. And again, just what was the point of the recast? Again, Newton doesn't do bad in this role, but why was it recast in the first place is the question. But yeah, so I'm getting away from that. The biggest selling point of this movie is Kang the Conqueror, and he is outstanding in this movie. Not just the performance, I like the motivation. I like the motivation he has. Kind of mirrors the second Thanos we got in Avengers Endgame, where he essentially wants to destroy all these timelines and create a new one. Now, generally, like nowadays, that's becoming a cliche at this point because there are several other movies that have ripped this off now. But I feel like it works here because again, he's mirroring what the last Avengers big bad wanted. He wanted to reduce the way he put it was reduce the universe down to atoms and created anew. And so that's his motivation throughout this, and I do like that. The action sequences are a lot of fun. There's a lot of army battles, and there's a lot of like one-on-one fights. Of course, the best fight was the fight at the end, the fist fight between Ant-Man and Kang. It was very reminiscent of Peter Parker versus Green Goblin in No Way Home. I've seen a lot of people say this movie is Marvel Star Wars, and at first before I saw the movie, I thought it was just, okay, because it's got a lot of sci-fi stuff, it's got a lot of weird creature designs. No, this is Marvel Star Wars, even down to a rebellion, an empire. Kang is obviously the Darth Vader of this movie. And and even down to his minions are literally just like blue and white stormtroopers. Like they have no personality. And I guess I wouldn't say they have no personality because they do kind of factor into the comedy every once in a while. So they have more personality than stormtroopers, I guess. But they're interchangeable. Like none of them have names. None of them have a face. It's all just this blue helmet and everything. So. Yeah, there are a few other characters that show up, mainly Resistance fighters, like William Harper Jackson. Is that the actor's name? I know those are the right names. I'm not sure if I got them in the right order, though. He's the dude from The Good Place, if you ever seen that show. He plays a telepath in this movie. He's pretty funny. He's not in the movie very long, but he's an enjoyable presence. There are a lot of other characters, like there's the weird dude with like the dude up here in this poster right here. I can't remember, I don't really know how to describe him, the one with like the glowing yellow face and everything. And there's like one female Resistance, but that's I guess the leader of the Resistance. She's fine, just not much to her. I do have some problems with this movie. The first one, the one I mentioned earlier, is I don't like how they handled MODOK. Now, for the most part, I don't mind it. Like, I get, like, they made this into a running joke where everyone, is kind of making fun of it, like, in the movies. Like, how else are you gonna react to this in real life? So I understand why they did that. He's pretty badass in this movie, too, especially when he has the metal face instead of the Corey Stroll's face. Speaking of that, it's Darren Cross. I think that was, and making it Darren Cross, I think was actually a really cool idea. But I did not like how the last few scenes of this character went. He went from badass to pretty cringy very quickly. Like in the scene, like the last two scenes he's in are pretty cringy to watch. They're not funny, they're not entertaining, they're just kind of cringy. The comedy, for the most part, is pretty hit and miss. And with the comedy, it's very reminiscent of Thor: Love and Thunder. When it hits, it only kind of hits. And when it doesn't, it really doesn't. There is not a single joke in this movie that is nearly as funny as anything out of the three wombats, as Pam referred to them as in the first movie. Luis, Dave, and who's the Russian guy? I can't remember. But those three guys were the best part of the other movies. In the second movie, you also had Paxton, you also had, for the brief time he was there, you also had Wu, who does make a cameo at the end of this movie, and I thought that was pretty cool. And it's a nice callback to Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you've seen the movie, you know why, for multiple reasons, actually. There are a lot of scenes before Kang shows up. There are a ton of scenes where they always end with talking about him, or he knows they're coming, he knows they're here, he's coming for you, they'll have to face him, they're being watched by him. It's like there's so many scenes that are building up Kang. Like, I get it, but there's like 20 times, it happens like 20 times where someone refers to him as him, or he is looking for them. It's like, just show us just show us the son bitch, alright? And eventually they do, and again, he's pretty cool. In the trailers, it kind of made it look like, Scott was working with him willingly. That's not really what happens in the movie, and I do kind of wish it had been the same thing like it was in the trailer, like he willingly helps them. Like he's tricking him, but he willingly helps him. I think that would have been pretty cool. It's not really where they go with that, but it's what they do is fine. But had they done it the way they did in the trailer, I think it would have been way better. Also, I didn't care for how this movie ended. It just kind of ends abruptly, and it wasn't a very funny conclusion. The end credit scenes were pretty cool, though. But again, I feel like I'm ragging on this movie. It's still a really good movie. The story's well paced and put together. It's not overly long. It's not 2.5 to 3 hours. It's like 2 hours and like 5 minutes, including the end credits. So it's not one of these. It's not like one of these long movies that have become a huge problem in Hollywood. Like last year alone, we had both the Batman and Elvis that were way too fucking long. The Batman had no right being 3 hours. Elvis didn't need to be 2.5. Avatar: The Way of Water sure as fuck didn't need to be 3 hours and 12 minutes. This movie comes across, it's basically a flat 2 hours. And again, the story's well paced and put together. When the comedy works, it works. The acting's all stellar. The effects look fantastic. The action sequences are a lot of fun. And I like what this builds up for the future. So, yeah, I always do my estimations beforehand, and I was assuming this would get a bit higher than it did, but this is still a fun movie. Like, again, if you're a Marvel fan, you're probably going to see it if you haven't already. I know there are a lot of people that see these movies several times in the theater. I don't. I only watch a movie once, and then I wait for it for Blu-ray or streaming, or whatever else it goes to. So that's all I got for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I'm giving this movie a B+. It's a solid B+. It's a good movie. Go watch it. So thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I guess I'll see you all next time. Bye.